We were friends and we've had contact with each other, but last time I seen him was like 4 days ago. He's had contact with her. She knows who he is. I mean, I've known him for 2 years. Of course he's gonna come across her one day.
Jennifer Buchanan, mother of missing 5-year-old Nevaeh, talking about her friend George Kennedy, a convicted sex offender. Kennedy says, I didn't do it. He's a person of interest. He says he was actually a father figure to the little girl. And we're talking to Shane Hinojosa, the actual father of the missing child. We're going to get to the phone lines in just a second. They're jam-packed. But Shane, what is your reaction? How do you feel when you hear a convicted sex offender saying he was the father figure to your child who is now missing?
It upsets me really, really bad, and this dude thought, he could, step up and be a father to my daughter. Well, this dude's nothing. I'm the real father, and the mother should have gave me a chance to prove that I was the father.
Well, why were you not involved in the child's life? I know that the child's mom, who you just heard from, Jennifer Buchanan, went to jail. She was in the slammer for 11 months for home invasion. Why didn't you get the child?
I have no idea. You can ask Monroe County that, I went in there, represent myself because I thought I had a good case. And the judge looked at me and said that, you have no right to your daughter, so they gave the custody to the grandmother.
Well, last question. Why weren't you involved before that? I mean, why weren't you just there with the... Did you break up with Jennifer? What happened?
Yeah, we broke up, and the girl I'm with now, she was dating Jenny's brother, so we took off together, and they held a grudge against me for the longest time, and that's the reason why they would not let me see my daughter.
All right, so you wanted to see your daughter, but you're saying you couldn't see her.
Oh yeah, I got stacks of phone records, calling to see her, and they say, well, I'll meet you out at your mom's house at the time, and I'd sit there and wait for hours and hours and hours, and they'd never show up.
All right, I want to thank you. I pray that your little girl is found okay, safe and sound. We're going to do everything we can on this part. Hopefully somebody out there knows something. Phone lines, again, jam-packed. Shirley, Florida, your question or thought?
Yes, ma'am. If the mother, Nevaeh's mother, knowingly subjected that child to the presence of a registered sex offender, I was wanting to know, is there any possible way that she could be charged with child endangerment?
Stacy?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before. The neglect statute sometimes is a little overbroad, but certainly it needs to encompass women like this that purposely put their children in harm's way. If she knowingly had the information that he was a convicted sex offender and not only allowed him to be, to associate with her child, but knowing that he was breaking his parole violations, she could be charged with neglect.
George Kennedy.
But you know what? It's a lesson in futility. At this point, we want to find the child first. That's the most important thing.
George Kennedy told the Toledo Blade he was a father figure to this little girl. Listen to what Nevaeh's mom said about that.
In 85% of the time, my daughter wouldn't even be around.
I thought, though, weren't you quoted as saying that George Kennedy was served as a father figure?
Yeah, but there's also a lot of times I knew that he wasn't allowed to be around her. I wouldn't have her around. But there's a few times that he has seen her, interacted with her, that I was there.
So he was never alone with her that you know?
No, never alone.
Curtis Sliwa, he knew that he was violating the terms of his parole by being with the child. You're required to stay 1,000 feet away from parks and playgrounds. There's a playground right outside where Nevaeh and her mom lived.
Right, but remember, Jane, this whole love boat connection between Kennedy and the mom took place where? At the parole board. That's where they developed that urge to merge. And the mother, the justification in her mind that most times he wasn't around. How could she possibly even bring this guy anywhere near a child, knowing what she knew about him and that he was on parole as a sexual offender? And then the guy himself, he knew he'd go right into the slammer. So feel no empathy, so no sympathy for him, because it didn't turn out that he was the person responsible.
Liz, Florida, your question or thought, ma'am?
Yes, I was just wondering, did they put cadaver dogs on her?
Michelle Segona, what do we know about the hunt for the actual child?
Well, the actual hunt there have been many searches that have taken place, not just within the apartment complex itself and every single unit, but also around with dogs, with searchers on the ground, through waterways, whatever way possible. As I mentioned earlier, today, there have not been any searches as of yet. But if they get a call in the middle of the night that says that Nevaeh may be, 2 miles away in this particular area of the woods, they will send searchers out there with dogs to search for her.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Mike Gator, what do they need to do now? Let's assume for a second that these 3 persons of interest aren't involved. How do they find somebody else with 900 tips?
Well, they got to go through all of those 900 tips and filter them out and see if they come up with any that look a little logical that they could follow up on. But they have to continue doing what they're doing. They're going to follow up on the tips. They're going to keep interviewing these 3 guys and others. And they're going to canvass the neighborhood. And one way or the other, they're going to find this little girl. That will be solved.
Excellent panel. Beautiful. Tracy Ocasio still missing in Florida. Last seen with James